I'll recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Bishop.
Ms. Clarke, in the the Missouri versus Biden case in the district court, the court explained, quote, if the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case arguably involves the most massive attack on free speech in United States history, close quote. Court went on to find that the plaintiffs were reasonably likely to succeed on the merits at trial, entered a preliminary injunction. The Fifth Circuit has affirmed. The Supreme Court has taken jurisdiction of the case. Of course, that's all civil litigation. Is any criminal investigation or prosecution of the persons responsible for that activity in the FBI, CISA, and at the White House and their co-conspirators underway in the Civil Rights Division?
Congressman, I'm not familiar with this litigation, but happy to bring your question back.
Thank you. So let me just make sure I understand that. You are not aware of the Missouri versus Biden litigation that is currently being taken up by the United States Supreme Court. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I'm not, Congressman.
Well, assuming that you're not aware of that, what reason would there be that the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department's leader is unaware of what a United States District Court has described as the most massive attack on free speech in the United States history?
If you could share more of the facts, that could be helpful, Congressman.
Otherwise, you just don't know. Is that correct?
That's correct. Unfortunately, this does not appear to be a case that I'm familiar with.
Well, good enough. I'm going to yield the balance of my time to the chairman.
Is the gentleman from Ohio?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I find that to be astounding. I do want to follow up on the line of questioning with the gentleman from California with respect to the FACE Act implementation, because Ms. Clarke, you dismissed saying, well, I can't. What?
Whose time are we doing now?
Go ahead, Mr. Bishop.
It's my time. I'll let the gentleman.
That's what
I may ask to send to the gentleman from Ohio after you. But
I just wanted to point out that there have been at least 35 cases of the FACE Act being applied to pro-life groups and/or churches, or pro-life people that are anti-abortion in your tenure, not even counting 2021. That's the data from 2022 and 2023, versus the 4 that we can point to, the 1 that you point to in January. So the point, gentleman from California, I would just ask, you're in your possession of your hands. You had a FOIA request that was responded to from a left-leaning group, the Center for Investigative Reporting. We've been asking for a copy of that FOIA about the prosecution levels and the numbers from your office for a long time, I think for almost a year, and we've not been responded to. So will you commit to sharing that FOIA request and all of the data of FACE Act prosecutions, specifically under your watch and generally?
I can absolutely bring this back to the division's FOIA officials and ensure that you receive a timely response. Please know that the division is committed to even-handed enforcement of the FACE Act.
Even under your watch, it's at least 35 to 1 or 2. That is not even-handed. That's far from even-handed. And importantly, Mark Houck, who was targeted, had a raid of his home, prosecuted under this, was acquitted by a jury. Have you apologized to him on behalf of the Department of Justice for that grave violation of his civil rights, having his family have to watch him being raided at his home, and then he's acquitted by a federal jury? Have you apologized to him?
Well, we follow the facts and apply the law. That is our job, and we welcome opportunities to engage with other pro-life groups that may be experiencing threats or acts of violence.
The answer to that is no. Does the
reclaiming my time, I yield to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I'm like, I think every member, at least on this side, but I would think every member, anyone watching, is just astounded that you are not familiar. The Assistant Attorney General for the Division of Civil Rights at the Justice Department is not familiar with a huge case, Missouri v. Biden, where in that case, I think it was 6 different federal agencies were found to be guilty of violating the First Amendment liberties of Americans, HHS, NIAID, FBI, DOJ, DHS, even the White House itself, and you are not familiar with that, is truly... frankly, I don't know what I think that's why the gentleman had time to yield back, because he didn't know what I don't know what we say. It's in front of the Supreme Court, and the head of Civil Rights Division doesn't know. That is scary. And if that doesn't in and of itself show that this Justice Department is political, and doing things for political reasons, I do not know what does. I yield back, and I appreciate the gentleman's question.
I yield my time.
I think the gentleman from North Carolina and the gentleman from Ohio. The gentlelady from Vermont is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assistant Attorney General Clarke, thanks so much for being here. And I wanted to start by just personally thanking the